Yeah. Gotta go for the goal, yeah, we gotta win. All heart and the soul, yeah, we putting in the trenches with the bros, gotta play to win. One more play, then we in the ship. One more game, we gon' get a win. Fight through pain, I can never quit. One more play, then we in the ship. One more play, then we in the ship. Gotta go for the goal, yeah, we gotta win. All heart and the soul, yeah, we putting in the trenches with the bros, gotta play to win. One more play, then we in the ship. One more game, we gon' get a win. Fight through pain, I can never quit. One more play, then we in the shit. One more play, then we in the shit. From the goal line.
Status Podcast.
Okay, now what?
All good?
Yeah, man. I feel like I'm sitting in front of y'all though, man. I need to slide back,
Hey,
but I'm
man,
good.
this is all
the hot
about
seat.
you. It's the hot seat.
I got you.
We
Like
put
the red table.
Yeah,
we put the lights on you, man.
it's not big like we don't snap like
No, but I mean, to get into it, we appreciate you coming, man. Talk about this book, talk about your student athlete experience, talk about your transition from player to car selling to coach to leading a program. I mean, there's a lot to get into, but we really appreciate you coming here, and we really want to highlight the book and what we're doing in terms of you being an author and things like that. So, 3-time national champion. Two-time national champion. In the 80s, whenever the U was the U.
Yeah.
We all watched the documentary, right? So
It's all about the
it's
you.
all about the U, right?
Always will be.
Orange Bowl MVP
Yeah,
as
man.
a sophomore.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys, man, taking the time to even talk with me and
Absolutely.
talking about the history of the University of Miami, talking about the history of me, growing up as a young man and becoming a student athlete and becoming a coach and my path to doing that and being a car salesman in between. But more importantly, about the book, which is something I never thought I'd do. The furthest thing from my mind, writing a book, but just doing those things. But like you said, the U in the 80s, it's one of those things, man. You go there and it's like, it's a brotherhood. I grew up with 3 sisters. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. And so I didn't have brothers. So the first time I stepped on campus, I was one of the brothers. The first thing they talk about, the lump on my head, talking about me, my head looking like a milk dud. And so as soon as you get to that situation, now you're bored. It's just like home. These cats are just like being at home. So it was just like a family to me. And that's why I chose the school and the reason that I loved it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you highlighted that in your acknowledgments in the book. You thanked your brothers at the University of Miami.
But there's no doubt, the brothers at the University of Miami are guys that, like I said, that was a brotherhood to me. And right now, our offensive line coach, his name's Rod Holder, we came in together in 85. Okay. So me and him have been friends since 30 plus years right now.
Wow,
he's the offensive line coach at Robert Morris University. We have a bond that's unbelievable. He's associate head coach. Like back in 2019, when my father passed away, and I had to get home and help my mom out and help my sisters out with the burial of my father, I said, Coach, you got it. He's like, Kane, go take care of your business. We call each other Kane.
Okay.
Say, Kane, go take care of your business. I got this. Don't worry about it. So that brotherhood has always been there with all the guys. We still reach out to each other and talk to each other.
Man, that's unbelievable, man. There's a guy, Coach Chud.
Jasinski.
Yeah.
Rob Jasinski at Boston
Coach
College.
Chud, he's at BC right now.
Absolutely.
Man. He speaks highly of the U.
Yeah, man. Coach Chud, he's one of those tight ends. Right now, Chud was one of those guys who was a possession receiver, unbelievable routes, ran great routes, had real soft hands, didn't have unbelievable speed, but was one of the better players on our team and did a real good job at getting where he needed to be at. And he's gone on to have a successful career.
Yeah.
I mean, Chud is, basically he was the head coach at Cleveland for a year. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people are head coach at Cleveland for a year. But he was there for a year, so he's been able to put himself in position. And what he's decided to do, and talking with him, I think he's off the field position at Boston College right now. Yeah. I don't think he's a coach, but he's also spending time with his sons. I think his son's really into hockey, so he's spending time with them. So, like I said, when we keep in touch with each other, we reach out to each other. It may not be every day, but we take the time to find out what the next one's doing and stuff like that.
And that's really the brotherhood of, college athletics and just being in the locker room, man. Talk about that. You as a coach, you probably see it all the time, the camaraderie in the locker room and, developing that brotherhood and that friendship that's going to last you forever.
Well, that's what brought me back to football. Mm-hmm. When I was a car salesman, and because you're in the world, you guys have got regular jobs, should I say. I don't like to put it that way, but you got a job outside of sports, outside of something you did since you were 8. So that's what brought me back to it, because when I was a car salesman, I was making good money. It wasn't the money. There's some months I can make $2,000, and then some months I can make $15,000, as a car salesman. But it wasn't about the money. It was about coming back around to that camaraderie. You missed that.
Right,
you missed that locker room atmosphere of joking with your boys. You missed that cracking jokes on each other and people not taking it personal. That's the situation. So when I got back into coaching, that's what I thrived for. But I also got back into coaching not because of the X's and the O's of it. I wasn't a big student of the game. I was one of those guys who could play and who could hit, and that's how I made my living at the time. So I wasn't a big student of the game. But the reason I came back was being in that atmosphere, being around those guys, being able to laugh and joke and, like I said, and crack jokes on him and talk about him, and nobody takes it personal. That's the great thing about the locker room, man. Now, again, some cats start taking it personal, but you always tell those guys, and I heard Shaq say it best, hey, be mad at who you're mad at. Don't get mad at me. So make sure you understand those things. So when I got back around it, that was an important thing. But when I got back around it, it wasn't about the football. Like I said, I wasn't a student of the game. It was really about the young men. My first coaching job was at Santa Fe Catholic High School. It's a small high school in Lakeland, Florida. And I walked in because when I first started selling cars, the guy who I was selling cars for, his name was Tony Gonzalez. His son was about to become a junior as a linebacker at this school. And he asked me, hey, you mind coaching my son on some pointers, letting him know what's going on? I said, yes, but I don't want to step on the head coach's toes, so let's go talk with the head coach first. Absolutely. So I went and spoke with the head coach. His name was Coach Hash. And I told him what I wanted to do, teach this young man. He said, that's great, but you'll be doing me a disservice if you weren't my defensive coordinator. So I looked at him and laughed. I'm like, first of all, I haven't even coached football a day in my life. You asking me to be a defensive coordinator. He said, I don't know how he got it, but he handed me a defensive playbook from Miami. I didn't ask him how he got it. I don't know how he got it, but he handed me the playbook. He said, do you think you can learn this? I said, I think I might be able to learn this. So I fell in love with it. But what I fell in love with was the first time I had a talk with the defense, the first time I had a talk with those guys, and the way they looked at me. It humbled me to think that I had something they wanted to hear. Yeah. And so that's what I fell in love with. I fell in love with the way young men looked at me, and I felt like I had something to say to them. So that's why I became a coach.
Absolutely. So being a student athlete, what were some of the biggest lessons you learned as a student athlete? And then what were some of the biggest lessons you learned as a coach?
I think all the lessons kind of go together. I mean, the biggest lesson I learned as a student athlete, you have to be diligent on the field, but you got to be diligent off the field. Yeah. You got to be organized on the field, but you got to be organized off the field. Football has molded all of our lives. Right. A lot of the things we do and the way we do them right now is because of football. Inky Johnson said it the best. He said, can you be committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the results?
That's my favorite quote. That's my guy.
and that quote is unbelievable because that's what it boils down to. And once you realize that as you get older, it's the process that's important. I was listening to one of my former teammates this morning. He was on a podcast. His name was Darren Smith. And Darren played in the NFL for a while. And Darren was saying when he won the Super Bowl, when he was with the Cowboys, he said it was great. He said, but the next day he woke up, he was like, is that it? Yeah. But what he realized is what all of us realize, you don't fall in love with the moment. You fall in love with getting to the moment. Right, you fall in love with the process of getting there because you know that process helped you win it. And next year, if I do this process again, I can win it again. Right. And so that's what I fell in love with. It was the process of being a student and the things you had to apply in order to be successful in the classroom and be successful on the football field. So that's what I fell in love with.
Did you realize that as you were going through it?
Oh, absolutely not. I was just living life. I was 18 to 23 years old. No, that was the last thing on my mind. Because you didn't like the process. I mean, no one likes practice. You can say what you want. So no one enjoys practice, but it's necessary. Right, and as a coach, that's what you try to get across to your guys and help them understand. It's not about what we're doing. It's about the process of what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. And that's what you try to instill in your players and help them understand at a young age because I didn't see it at a young age. So you're trying to instill in them now. Some of them get it, some of them don't get it. And some of them aren't going to get it until 5-10 years from now. That's why our mission statement as a team and my mission statement since I've been into it is to create an environment on and off a football field to continue what families have done and help you become a better man, a better husband, and a better father. 3 most important things you're ever going to be in your life. But it's about the process. So unfortunately, sometimes what we're looking for as coaches, we may not see that process come to fruition 2, 3, 4, 10 years down the line when a guy calls and says, hey, coach, I want you to be the godfather of my kid, which brings you to tears. Coach, I want you to come to my wedding. So you see those things happening. So the process to me is extremely important.
Absolutely. And you talk a lot about, developing young men into, what you want to see them become once they leave your program. 2019, I want to say the Sportsmanship Award that you guys got at Robert Morris. How important was that to you?
I don't know if you're going to answer this question. See, this is the situation with the Sportsmanship Award. I'll be totally honest with you. You guys know where I played at, right?
I know where you played at. That's why I wanted to get into it.
The Sportsmanship Award wasn't what we were looking for. I think it's just something that came along with it because our guys play so disciplined and they play together as a team and they play competitive more than they go. So I'm bittersweet when it comes to the Sportsmanship Award. I'm just being honest with you. I can't sit there.
When the boys hit you up, like,
oh my God. It's so crazy. One of my boys, I was talking about him on the way here, we call him Bear. His name is Randy Bethel. Randy was the first one to call me. He was one of my college roommates. He's like, Sportsmanship Award? He said, I'm not sure how I feel about that, man. I say, bro, I'm excited our guys won the award. You know, this year's been great for us. We were able. The fantastic thing about that was they hadn't had a winning season at Robert Morris since 2010.
Wow.
So we step in the first year in 2018, trying to change the culture, get where it needs to be at. And we go 2-9. It's like, okay, but we felt like we were doing it at the end of the year. Had a great game against Eastern Kentucky towards the end of the year, and our guys, we felt like it was clicking. So the next year we came in, we had a lot of guys there that summer. The year before we had about 10 guys. This year we had about 50 guys going into the 19th season. But then we lose to Kentucky State. And Kentucky State was a D2 school, so I was hot. Yeah. So normally we don't practice on Sundays. We're full gear Sundays. We're full gear. We're out there going at it. And then that night, I get a call. That's when my father passed, September 8th, 2019. So I had to go home. Coach Holder took over. We lost a date in that week. I came back the next week. We're going to play VMI, and we hadn't had a victory on the road against an opponent in God knows how long, especially not a conference opponent. I think it was like 2012 was the last time we had a victory on the road. So we go down and we beat VMI. And so I see things starting to click and our guys are starting to understand the process of what's happening. So we have a great year that year. So I think the sportsmanship just kind of went along with it. We went 7-5. We came in second in the conference. All those things. And we were able to improve so much. So the sportsmanship came along with it. But again, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it. I'm glad we got it.
Right,
I'm excited about having it. I'm just not sure how I feel about it. That's all.
It's a moral victory.
Yeah, baby, coming from where I played and how we played and how we went about it. And don't get me wrong, there was nothing nasty. There was nothing unsportsmanlike with what we did in Miami. It's just we wanted to beat people into submission. And beating someone into submission just kind of doesn't go along with sportsmanship award. I always tell the guys, you guys know this, Saturday is when assault and battery becomes legal.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I mean, I could literally knock a man out. As long as I do it the right way, they're going to tell me to go back to the huddle.
Exactly.
So when you get a sportsmanship award for doing what you're supposed to do and it's organized violence, it's kind of hard to beat sportsmanship and organized violence. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Now, how influential was your dad in your early ages growing up in sports and getting into coaching?
Not as influential as dad would be, I guess, because my dad worked a lot. My dad worked at Delta Airlines. My dad had a job. He came to games when he can come to games. Probably the person that was at every game, I think, with all of us, Mom.
Yeah.
Mom was at every game, and I could hear Mom in the stands at every game and what was going on. My dad really kind of took over that when I got to college.
Okay.
Like, my dad didn't allow me to take my car in the first semester because he wanted to make sure my grades got what they wanted to be at. So I got a 3.4. He's like, okay, now you can have your car. My dad came to every game. He worked for Delta Airlines, so my dad flew to every game, made sure he was at every game. He followed me and make sure I took care of it. If something went down wrong with the car, he took care of that. So it wasn't until I got to college and my dad saw that I was taking this serious where he stepped in. And probably the biggest thing that happened, and we talked about the Orange Bowl when I won Most Valuable Player, I'll never forget before the game, I was like, talking to the papers and everything else, because I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore. People coming to me from every different way, saying, are you sure you're going to be able to do this and all sort of stuff? And me and the young, cocky punk I was, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to miss a beat. What do you mean? Absolutely. So before the game, I was standing up before the game, and I remember my dad made his way down to the field, and he grabbed me, and he said, look, he said, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You keep talking to the papers like you got to prove something. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Only people you got to show that you can do it are your coaches and your teammates. That's it. He said, they know what you can do. They believe in you because they put you in that spot. And so that's where you need to be at. So Pops didn't really take over till I got to that level. And I always tell people, and then when I made it to the NFL, my dad let me off the hook, which I think was just unbelievable. A lot of parents don't do this. My dad came to me and I was drafted in the 3rd round. The first thing he said to me was, it was my job to raise you. It is not your job to raise me. If you don't give me a dime, I don't care. You don't have to give your mom a dime. We don't care. If you want to give us money, that's great. But you don't owe us anything. We owed you your life. We owed you the responsibility of taking care of you. And we've done our job. Absolutely. So my pops didn't really take over until I got there.
How'd you carry that message with you? That you don't owe us anything. I mean, a lot of people, they feel the pressure to
have to give mom and dad back. I gotta give my mom this house, dad this car. And so I don't think too many parents sit there and tell you like, I was supposed, that's my duty. I did my duty. You know what I mean? You don't owe me nothing.
But I carried it exactly that way. And I never had to worry about, if I wanted to send them money, which I did.
Right.
I didn't have to send them. I got to tell you a crazy story. It's so funny. I decided one day, I was just sitting, I was like, I'm writing my mom and dad a check for 10 grand. Mm-hmm. So I write them a check. I send the check down. So I waited about a week or so. I called my pops. I was like, Pop, you get the checks for 10 grand? What damn check? I ain't get no check. I sent the check 2 weeks ago. Your mom ain't tell me about no check. He said, I gotta go talk to your mom. I said, no, I just write another check, Bob. Don't worry about it. So I wrote him a check. So everything worked out well. He was like, next time you send some money, let me know you send the money so your mom don't get it. Because I haven't seen a check for 10 grand.
Shopping.
So it's a situation where, and my mom and dad were both the same way. And like you said, most parents aren't like that. But it's true. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, when you have a kid, that kid is your responsibility. At no point did you become that kid's responsibility unless you get old and elderly where he has to take care of you or she has to take care of you, then they become your responsibility. So I took that to heart. And so, like I said, I never felt obligated to write a check for money to my mom and dad. I did it because I wanted to.
Right.
And they never called and asked me for money. They never said, you owe me this. Right. I didn't owe them anything because they were my parents.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. I know we all have kids, and to look at it that way as we're raising our little ones is, I think it's going to be essential, especially as for them as adults. Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Nah, I was just thinking about something. I remember the movie Fences. I don't know if you seen it with Denzel, and he asked like, "Why don't you like me?" He said, I don't gotta like you. Yep. As a man, you my responsibility. I take care of you, eat my food, you eat this.
Absolutely.
That's what I think about when I hear you talk like that.
Yeah, because it's true though. I mean, his dad didn't have to like him. Yeah. It's my job to love you and take care of you. That's what I'm supposed to do. And I remember it's weird you say that, because I remember when I was a kid and my mom and dad used to tell me all the time, we don't have time to be your friend. Yeah. We're raising you. Yeah. We'll become friends when you get older and you become a man and we can hang out. Like, I think the first time my father and I had a beer together was when I got married. Mm-hmm. I was 35 years old. My dad didn't believe in sitting down with me having a beer. You're not my friend. Yeah. You're my son.
I wish a lot more parents.
And so it's exactly what you're talking about. So yeah, my dad took a different approach and my mom took a different approach when it came to that and understood. And again, like I said, I did stuff for them. Right. But I never felt obligated to do it for them. And I think that's the difference. That so many young men now, they feel obligated. Man, I have to buy my mom. Why? Why do you have to buy your mom a house? Mm-hmm. Your mom, she gave birth to you, she raised you, she took care of you, she decided to take care of you. Right. Isn't that what parents do? So that's basically what my father was telling me. And again, this is what my dad told me. This isn't something I'm just saying for people to get upset. But this is what my dad was telling me, that you were my responsibility. And so therefore now, and I remember my mom, when I first got into coaching, my first coaching job at James Madison University, I made $15,000. Mm-hmm. My mother looked at me, she said, when you eat, your family eats. You got no wife, you got no kids, so all you need to take care of is you. Mm-hmm. So go and chase your dreams. So that's why I did it. Yeah,
and it's easy to do it whenever you get that confirmation.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's funny, we talk about all of these lessons that, we've learned from parents or, the brotherhood in college. You wrote your lessons down, and it's something that's going to live forever, right? Like you had that conversation with whoever it is, you learned that lesson, and that lesson is just something that sticks with you, but this is something that can stick with everyone for the rest of time.
Yes.
What influenced you to write your lessons down on paper?
The two biggest influences is, you guys got a daughter?
Yeah,
got a daughter. So you guys have daughters. As you look at that little girl in her eyes, and she's the apple of your eye. I mean, I'm sure she's a daddy girl, and you'll do anything it takes to protect her. And you look at her and you say to her, baby, your body's precious. It's a temple of God. It's sacred. You're not to just give your body to any man. You need to understand. You need to be with that man. As a matter of fact, you probably need to wait till you're married. And as a father, I don't want you to get married till you're about 35. I don't even want to think about a man touching my little girl. We don't have those same conversations with our little boys. Why not? Why don't we tell our little boys, your body's precious. Your body's a temple of God. Your body is sacred. You can't just be sleeping with any woman you see and over and over and over. Why don't we have that conversation? Don't be the dog I was as a kid. Why don't we have that conversation? So that was the first reason. The second reason I wrote it's because one of the schools I was coaching at, young man happened to make it to the NFL. He played about 5 or 6 years in the NFL. He was a virgin. And I remember him saying to me, Coach, I want to be a virgin until I'm married. And me being an ex-football player and being the football player I was and playing in the NFL, I was like, well, I never heard that before, you know. So, but he said to me, he said, Coach, I probably think about sex more than you do. He said, but the difference is I can never get it back if I give it to a woman. I can't give it to my wife if I give it to another woman. So it's important for me to keep this for myself and give it to my wife the same way I feel about a woman. And he was a virgin. He met a woman who was a virgin and they ended up getting married and having, I think, 4 or 5 beautiful kids. Okay. So that was the biggest reason I did it. And because of those lessons that all of us as men talk about, we have that conversation with our little girl. And I don't have kids, but I can guarantee if I had a daughter, we'd definitely have this conversation. But also because of the book, if I had a son, I'd have the same exact conversation with him. I wouldn't have the conversation, look, man, make sure you strap it up before you. No, I tell him your body is sacred. Your body is a temple of God, and it should be treated as such. And we don't do those things.
I think a lot of that is a reason because it's like, think about growing up. We grew up, it's not the cool thing to do. Like, you know what I mean? The cool thing is, oh, let me get this girl, that girl, that girl. And like you said, I haven't had a conversation like that with my dad, like, no, wait till marriage or wait till, you know what I mean? Right. But I seen him have conversations with my sisters, like the same ones, to whereas, all right, he might have that conversation, come in the next room, man, strap it up.
Exactly. Now think about how mixed messages those are.
Right.
You're telling your sisters that, but somebody else is telling their son, strap it up. So they're going after your sisters.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the mixed messages that we're getting. But as men, for some reason we still don't understand that. And it all goes back to one of the examples I use in the book. And this is the example I've been telling a lot of people. There's an example where I was talking to a bunch of college students. And probably about 40 to 50% of the college students, maybe a little bit more, were women. And I'm having this conversation with them. I said, young ladies, you meet a guy. He takes you out for 3 months. You have a great time together. You guys are having a great time. The relationship is going great. But every night that he takes you home for the past 3 months, he's just giving you a kiss on the cheek. What are you going to think of him at the end of those 3 months? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? In unison, every woman in there said, he's gay. Oh, wow. In unison, every woman said that. Yeah. I said, okay, what's the second thing? He's bad in bed. Or his package ain't big enough. What's the third thing? What's wrong with me? So as a man, what are we thinking? If I don't try something, she gonna think I'm gay. If I don't try something, she gonna think I'm bad in bed. If I don't try something, she's gonna think that something's wrong with her. So it's a warped way of thinking all the way around. So the way men think of themselves now makes women look at that way. And they'll never see themselves as precious because women don't see them as precious. So as long as a woman's not seeing you as precious, why would a woman? And why would a man? They didn't say he was respectful. They didn't say he's trying to get to know me. They didn't say maybe he's falling in love with me. No, he's gay. So in the back of his mind, he's thinking, she gonna think I'm gay. So I gotta try something soon. Or she gonna think I'm gay. Exactly.
I gotta figure something out.
And that's the whole thing. And that's the crazy thing about it. Just for some reason, men aren't told wait until marriage. But I didn't realize until I got around a bunch of guys, a bunch of believers, a bunch of Christian guys that were waiting till they were married. And I know a lot of guys who were virgins. I'm like, wow. But I had never been in that circle. Yeah. The only circles I've been in was with them Slinging Johnson circles. So those are circles and so that's the crazy thing about it. But we have got to start telling that. And what it boils down to, man, it's not a book about sex. It really isn't. It's a book about self-love. It's a book about respecting yourself. It's a book about seeing yourself as being precious and seeing yourself as a temple of God. And when you see yourself that way, Doesn't matter how other people see you. I think people do things because of how they feel about themselves, not because of how somebody else. They think about how other people feel about it. But the bottom line is, if you love yourself, you're where you need to be at in life, you don't really care what anybody else thinks.
Right.
Like when I gave my life to Christ in May of '96, overwhelming sense of peace and joy came over me. So I'm like, I'm cool no matter what. If I get fired from a job, I'm gonna find out something. Everything's gonna work itself out because that's the joy, the peace I have from Christ. So once a young man comes to love himself, that's great, and that's how he grows. Before I married my wife and I was having sex before we got married. But then I gave my life to Christ and I started practicing abstinence. So I broke up with my wife. She'll tell you a whole nother story. Her story just makes me look like a villain. But I broke up with my wife when I first started my first coaching job at James Madison. One, because I wanted to get myself together. You know, and two, because I wanted to get my career going. But at the time I was practicing abstinence, so I wanted to try to stop. I say practicing abstinence because I went 6 months and messed up. I went a year and messed up. The longest I went was a year and a half. Right. You know, so I was able to do that. But the reason I did that is because I had to come to love myself. And I had to put myself first. Not in a selfish way, but in a way that I have so much respect for myself and I love myself so much. I'm not doing anything to harm myself. And I'm putting myself in a realm where I'm not going to harm you because I don't want to go to jail by harming you. Doesn't make any sense because I love me too much to get locked up. I love me too much for a cop to beat up on me because I did something to you. And that's how it was. So I came into the relationship 100%. And so she did the same thing. She came into the relationship 100%. So when I asked her to marry me, the night I asked her to marry me, we waited a year to consummate our marriage on wedding day, before our vows, as opposed to trying to do it all before that. And after I did that, man, I really got to know my wife. I found out what her favorite color was. I found out what she liked to do. Before that, man, I was just trying to, trying to do what I need to do. But once I got to know her and spent time with her and get to know her, that's just the way it is. I mean, it's so crazy as men that explain to me how it's okay that we'll have sex with a girl that I talk about it in the book. We won't even let her drive our car the first night we see her.
Why don't you let her drive your car?
The first night you met her. I mean, why not let her drive it? Or, I was listening to this podcast and this athlete was talking. He brought this girl to his house. Yeah. Just met her, brought her to his house. Oh, no, she can't stay in my house. Huh? She can't stay in your house, but you can. No, she ain't staying in my house by herself, but I'll have sex with her. I don't know her last name. Yeah. I probably won't remember her name come tomorrow. And I'm sure all of us have been in a situation, I'm only speaking for myself, where I don't know some names. But I let them have the most precious gift that I have, which is me, which is my body. And it just makes no sense to me. So that's the reason I wrote the book.
No doubt. I mean, and that's powerful.
I know that's a long, drawn-out answer.
Because a lot of people.
I ain't thinking like I was about to say because like I never thought about like all right. You think about like girls, little girls, waiting, but then you think about like I started like looking back on my past, like, dang, maybe if I was held out this would have happened. Like it's just I don't know.
It's a lot to think about.
But I mean, not only that, you're destroying. You don't know how many girls you destroyed on the way. How many hearts you broke on the way because you're not thinking about it. Women can say what they want to say. People can say what they want to say. Men and women think differently when it comes to sex.
Absolutely.
Period. We just think differently. Men just look at it as, and I said in the book, this is my tool. I'm going to use as much as I can, get as much use out of it. And women get more emotionally involved. So how many girls do you met that have gotten emotionally involved with you, but you haven't? Yeah. But you know they're getting emotionally involved with you because you want to do what? Yeah, you just want to have sex.
Use your tool.
Exactly. And that's what it boils down to. And so how many girls have you hurt along the way, not even knowing? Like one of the things I did when I gave my life to Christ was I reached out to some of the young ladies that I had been with, I had kept in touch with, and I apologized to them for how I treated them. And for the most part, most of them were like, no, you're honest with me, so it didn't bother me too much. Some women were different. Some women were like, no, I appreciate you reaching out to me and letting me know that. But that's the whole thing. Along the way is men, because we don't see our bodies as precious, we don't see anybody that way.
No doubt about it.
I think a lot of us as men, we use this as like a competitive type thing. Like,
absolutely.
Who can get this girl, that girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You see that all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Especially in the locker room. You think about it in the locker room, it's just like, oh, this happened yesterday.
And the crazy thing, exactly what you said. Now, let's say one of our boys is talking like that. And then I brought up the book to him and say, well, why do you see yourself this way? they're going to look at you like you're lame.
Right, yeah.
They're not even going to take you serious. Like, bro, what are you talking about, bro?
Sure.
Right.
And you know that's how it is, unfortunately. Like, I can't have a conversation with a young man, but these are the conversations I have with my players.
Right.
Because now as a head coach, I can talk to them about it all the time. Now, I even talk, guys, just because a girl comes to your house at 3 a.m. doesn't mean she's coming to have sex with you. Right. Why she coming, coach? I don't know. But explain to me why you trying to have sex with her. You don't even know her. You don't know her last name. You don't know anything about it. Matter of fact, she could be coming to your house and be a serial killer, but you don't know because all you trying to do is get your rocks off.
Right.
She may come and stab you to death. But as a man, we don't think about that.
Yeah.
We're always thinking with the wrong head.
Right, yeah.
You know, so that's the reason for the book. So it's thought provoking is what it is. It's making guys think. Because I had a female friend of mine who read the book and she said to me, if you'd have had this book when you were 15, would it have made a difference? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm being honest with you. I don't know. If I'd have read it, I have no idea. I said, because these thoughts came to me when I was 30.
Right.
These aren't thoughts that came to me when I was 15.
Our brain is wired different as we get older.
Absolutely. So, and it came out at the right time. I'm 55. So it came out at the right time. So now I can have conversations of why I wrote it and why it was important for me to write it. And I'm not defensive when people don't agree with it.
Right.
So
it's funny because we target, young men and people who are, giving the messages to young men with this book.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically student athletes,
mm-hmm.
which is probably the hardest group to grasp this lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the most important points in a book that can help me or Dana or Delbert at 20 years old grasp the concept that you're trying to pursue here?
I think it's the self-love aspect of it. It's learning to what's important to you, not what's important to your boys. It's what are you all about? How are you as a person? And I think trying to find out your purpose in life. I think once you find your purpose, that becomes more important than this and that. All the guys that are married can understand this. Is you got to understand when it comes to a relationship, if you want a marriage to work, a relationship to work, it has nothing to do with sex. If you think you're going to get married and have sex every night,
you got another thing coming.
You got another thing coming. And you know what? Sometimes it ain't just a woman. Sometimes you just don't want to be, sometimes as a man, you don't. So to me, communication is extremely important. Understanding is extremely important. Trust and honesty, all those things are important when you're trying to build a relationship. So you have to talk to young men about what's important to you. Is your body important? Is it okay if you just sleep with this girl, that girl? Is that what important? What are you proving? I mean, how is that building your self-worth? So it's more talking to young men about their self-worth and talking to them about loving themselves than I am about sex. The sex aspect, and you know this, you guys know this, when it comes to young men, there's 3 ways to grab their attention. Sex, sports, and money. Mm-hmm. They're listening to you.
Yeah.
So it's the book is a way to listen to them and draw them in. And the questions at the end of some of the chapters help them reflect and think about some of the things they're doing. And a lot of times you have to be alone with them. You can't be in a group. Because if you talk about it in a group, it's going to be a joke. Everybody's going to laugh about it. Like I've had guys come in my office through my years of coaching. Hey, coach, I'm a virgin. Great. That's how I said. He's not going to say that in the locker room. Right. It's like it'd be
a joke.
It's like he's a virgin. Yeah. It's so crazy. At one of the schools I was at, and I can say it because I've said it before, when I was coaching Coach Tyler, I was coaching Delbert. I was at Hampton University, and I remember one of the young men, he stood up and said, Coach, I'm a virgin. And literally everybody in that room was like, you ain't gonna be by the time you leave. We're gonna make sure of that. Not encouraging it. Not saying, hey man, that's great, man. Save it to. No, their whole mission was I gotta get you. I gotta get you. So that's what's so crazy. So a lot of times guys buckle under peer pressure. So I think a lot of times you have to get them one-on-one and find out where they are with themselves. How do they feel about themselves? Have they learned to love themselves? Mm-hmm. So, because even reading the book, all of us admitted if we'd had the book at 15, we don't know what we'd handle. Would peer pressure have been more? But I think if you start talking to them and helping them understand the love for themselves, then that's what's more important.
You talk about some of the questions in the back of the chapters. they're thought provoking, right?
Yes.
And I love them because I thought about them as someone at 20 years old and then someone of where I am now.
Right.
So like, if you look at some of these questions, what value do you place on your body? If you was a 20-year-old and someone asked you that question, how would you answer it?
Well, there's two different ways of looking at it at 20. Again, this is a 55-year-old man right now.
Yeah.
What value did we place on our body as athletes? A lot. External.
Yeah.
We lift weights, make sure you worked out, eat right, because we had to be able to play well. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about internal. I'm talking about your emotions, your feelings. What value did I place on it back then? Not much.
Yeah.
Didn't think about it. Had a girlfriend at the time, but still didn't think about it at that time. But right now, as a 55-year-old man, nothing but value. The most important thing there is for me to love myself, man, and understand the importance of myself. I love my wife dearly, but I don't love her more than I love me.
Right.
And I tell her that all the time. There's sacrifices I make for her, absolutely, because you're in a marriage. But at the same time, I don't love my wife more than I love myself.
Right.
So.
And you talk about that a lot. How important is it to find that self-love before you go looking for it externally?
Yeah, it's extremely important. And again, that's what I did before I got married. Because I think if you go into a marriage thinking, oh, this person is going to complete me, you're out of your mind. That person is not going to complete. And I'm talking about female or male. It doesn't make a difference. And a lot of women get caught up in that thinking, if I just meet the right guy. No, you have to be whole. You have to bring 100% to the relationship if you want 100% out of the relationship.
Absolutely. Going back to raising kids, we talk about, the single mother in the book and how hard it is for a single mom to have the sex talk with her son. How do they overcome those complications of having that talk and really just get to the bottom of it and talk about what you're trying to relay in this book?
I think more of it has to come from a woman's point of view, meaning that if you're a single mom and you have a son, I think you need to tell him how it made you feel as a woman when a man did this, and this. And I think that will open, because none of us want to see our mother hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see mom. As a matter of fact, if we thought about it before we did it and said, well, if somebody did this to my mom, how would I feel? Exactly. So I think when you're a single mom, you have to come at it from how it made you feel. Like, let's say it's a son with a single parent and the dad's not in his life. As a single mom, you're telling your son how precious his body is, and this is how your father acted towards me. And this is what he did. Not that I don't dislike your father. I'm not bashing your father. But when it came to my body, when it came to sexuality, this is the relationship that we had sexually. And so this is why I want you to come to love yourself and come to understand that if you don't come to love yourself and you treat a woman a certain, this is how she may end up feeling. So I think a single mom needs to come from more how she feels as a woman based on how the man treated her.
Imagine having that conversation with your mom. It's so different, right?
I'm over here like this in my head, like, I'm trying to think of a conversation I had with my mom, like, that would have been deep.
And I want to reiterate, and I reiterated this, I'm not saying anything good or bad about being born out of wedlock. I'm not talking about kids born out. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about self-love. There are tons of single moms who've raised great sons.
Yeah, for sure.
There are tons of single dads who've raised great sons and great kids. My mom and dad were married 59 years. That's what I saw.
Right.
I came home to Pops and Mom every night. Even though they had their different complications, I'm sure they did. But I came home and I walked in, I saw Mom and Pops there every night. It was just one of those situations. So that's how I look at it from a different angle. So I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being a single parent, but it has nothing to do with having the talk.
Right.
As a single mom, can you tell your son, this is how I felt when I was with your father and he wasn't with me emotionally. He was with me physically, but he wasn't with me emotionally. And so I think that's how a mother can come at it. Again, not bashing the father, but helping him understand this is why you have to keep your body sacred. This is why you need to stay a virgin until you're married, because you don't know how you're affecting that young lady when you deal with it.
I'm sitting over here thinking like, dang, I'm deep in it. I'm like, man, what could I have done better as a man? Like,
I'll answer that question. A whole lot of things.
Like, dang, if I would have done that.
I know they're real you.
But remember, but think about it, though, guys. I mean, we don't have these conversations, and that's what bothers me about it. Men don't have the conversations, let alone the wives having the conversations. You just said. I mean, it's like my dad told me the same thing. You know, make sure you strap it up. Right. Be smart about what you're doing. And I will. And people always ask because I don't have kids, and people always ask me, why don't you have kids? And I always tell them, I said, there's nothing wrong with being a single parent. It's not how I wanted to do it. Right. I wanted to wait till I was married. And then when I got married, I was 35. And next thing you know, my wife and I were over 40. And she looked at me, I looked at her, like, this ain't happening. You know, so we decided not to. But I am a father figure,
right? Sure.
You know, to a lot of young men. And my wife, you know, they call her Miss Tammy or they call her whatever. They respect her too. So it's a situation where we have kids, but we don't have kids. Right. And so that's the great thing about it. But man, it's just, the conversation's just hard. They're hard to have. Yeah. You know, the conversations are hard to have, to sit and talk with your son about, hey man, why don't you wait until you're married? You know, why don't you, and this is why you should wait until you're married. I mean, I was a dog. You don't want to do that. You know, you don't want, I hurt women along the way in ways I probably don't even know because I didn't take the time to go back and talk to them.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't take the time to go back and see how they were doing. How many one-night stands did you have? You don't even know a name. Mm-hmm. You have no idea the girl's name whatsoever. And you can tell your son, you don't have to be that. Right. You don't have to do that. You don't have to live like that. And I'm not saying live like that in a way where he's doing this or doing this. I'm talking about you respecting yourself and you coming to love yourself and understanding what self-love is about.
I think a lot of, like you said it, that's what you've seen. You've seen your parents married for 59 years. A lot of people who, you know, myself, I came home to see my mom. I mean, my dad was still around, but I seen my mom, and I depended a lot on people around, like in the streets and stuff, to raise me. And so that's what I seen. So like now, as growing up, and you know, you reach that age, and I was just like, all right. We chilling on the porch. A girl walked past, but you ain't gonna go talk to her. So that's what we came up on. Absolutely. So like you said, it's like what you come home and see. It kind of influenced you how you gonna go about your life.
Well, let me ask you: do you have a son now?
Yeah, I have a son now.
Would you have this conversation with him? Or could you have this conversation?
I could.
With him?
I'll tell you the truth. I never planned on it, but after like this conversation is like this is kind of deep. Like it's just like, you know, I strongly consider it like because I automatically gonna have it with your daughter, like you said. Absolutely. But after this conversation, you know, after reading the book, it's just like get your brain triggered to like, okay, you got a point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you start self-reflecting, you know what I mean? And thinking, if I would have did this when I was 20, 22, maybe if I wasn't chasing girls in college and focusing more on my craft, I'd be that much better. And this would have turned out better or whatnot. So it's definitely a conversation you can have.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, and I tell people all the time, this is not a conversation about telling your son to wait till he's married.
Right.
It's a conversation about telling your son that your body is precious. Your body is a temple of God. Your body is sacred. Don't just give it to anybody. At least get to know her.
Absolutely.
At least get to the point where I don't have a problem with her driving my car before you have sex with her. I don't have a problem with knowing at least what her favorite color is before I have sex with her. That's all it's a book about. It's a book about self-love. I mean, because when people talk about it all the time, and Tyler Perry said it best, women love often, men love hard. And when we finally give our heart to somebody, it don't work. We mad at everybody. But again, if you tell them along the way that your heart is precious, that your heart is sacred. So when you finally give it, understand, it's not going to be easy if things don't go the way, if that process don't go the way you want it to go, you might be emotionally attached to those results. So, but if you're telling them along the way that these things are going to happen, man, you may get your heart broken. This may happen, but understand how sacred you are and how much I love you and how much you're there. Well, let me ask you a question, because you said you had a good relationship with your dad. Then why did you put yourself in a position where she's there with him all the time and you're not there all the time? Because that's a question I asked in the book.
As far as like the children?
Her being a single parent. I mean, even though you're there. You're there with your kids, but her being...
I think just like you said, just not really knowing and just being young-minded and just, I don't want to say young-minded, but just not being mentally ready. Like, you know what I mean? So once it came about and, you know, my child was here, it's just like, okay, this was that. But I'm being immature and not being mentally stable enough to sit there and say, like, I can be with one woman. You know what I mean? And so it's totally on me. Mm-hmm. Like, I just couldn't be with one woman. So, you know what I mean? So it was always, all right, one woman for 6 months, and then you got to do this. You know what I mean? Or like you said, just practicing a one woman thing, and you say practicing because you mess up. so like it was a repeat pattern. So like it was totally on me just being mentally unstable to even commit to one woman. Like I think I was because of afraid of commitment.
Yeah.
So
I got you. And that's the question I asked, and the question I asked because again I grew up with mom and pops in the house. But if you grew up in a single parent home, why would you want to develop another single parent home?
You're right.
And that's what's so. And again, I'm not. Guys are there for their kids. I'm not saying that. It's just that how did it feel, even though you knew your dad wasn't there, how did it feel to come home to just your mom every night? And so now you put your kids in a situation, even though you're in their life, and even though you love them, they're coming home to just their mom. And again, and the reason I ask is because basically what I'm asking is, why would you sleep with a girl without a condom that you're not willing to be with for the next 18 years?
Right.
And that's the conversation you have to have with your son. Right. If you sleep with her without a condom, you know and I know, if it happens, there's a 50% chance, if you don't pull out, that she may get pregnant.
Right.
Is this a girl I want to be with? And that's how I looked at it. Believe it or not, when I was sleeping with girls, I would look at, do I want to be with her for 18 years? I'm being honest with you, because I saw my partners who had kids, and okay, they got child, and if you're going to be a man, you got to be able to child support and everything else. Do I want to be with her for the next... No, I'm wearing a condom. and that's how it was. And I'm not saying I wore a condom all the time, but there was situations I was like, no, I'm wearing a condom. This is one of them situations. I'm not planning on being with her next 18, not 18 days. So I'm putting myself in a situation. I'm thinking about that because I'm also thinking about mom and pops being in the house. So that's why I asked the question. Why would you put yourself in the same situation, or put your kids in the same situation? And I'm not trying to judge. No.
But also, I think something you touched on talking about how women love and men love, and how women have sex and men have sex, to whereas women have sex with emotions, men don't. Right. So a lot of time, I know that myself in the situation we just spoke about, I'm so like, I wasn't thinking like, all right, I'm just go do this and come back. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to do this, come back. Because I don't care. So like, my emotions isn't there. But not thinking about the young woman who's there, now it get tied up. Now it come to light, it's just like, you know what I mean? So,
absolutely. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly where you're coming from. But again, it goes back to, I don't know, man. It's just, like you said, I think it's how you're raised and how people look at it and stuff like that. But I can't even say that. Let me tell you why I can't say that. I'm not going to say his name. Friend of mine. Mom and dad been married. He's close to my age. So mom and dad been married about 60 years. He got 12 kids out of wedlock. Ooh. So explain that. Yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. So it comes back to self-love all over again. Right. It's like, how are you looking at yourself, man? It's like, I looked at mom and pop, but my boy didn't. Yeah. Matter of fact, it didn't even faze me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about, and it's 8 different women. Right. Yeah. So I mean, so explain to me that scenario where he grew up around it. That's what he grew up. Mom and dad been married 60 years, always been together. You know, that's ain't but 2 of them, and with him and his sister. So, and you got 12 kids out of wedlock from 8 different women.
That's crazy, and that's funny because as I was listening to you talk to Dana about this conversation and you talking about your friend, and I think one of my favorite chapter titles is "Change is unavoidable, but growth is a choice."
Yes. Absolutely. You know that there's nothing you can do about change. It's gonna happen. Yeah. But are you gonna grow with those changes? And that's the question I asked. Do you grow with those changes every time that they happen? And that's the important thing, man. Am I growing? And I grew. I just chose to grow. You know, even in the NFL. You know, when I talk about my NFL experience and I talk to guys, and I was a 3rd round draft pick and I played 2 years. Obviously, I wasn't a slap, you know, because I was a 3rd round pick. But when I got there, and I refused to become a student of the game, you know. You guys have played this game before. I mean, there's things that separate good players from bad players. And when you get to that level, everybody can run and hit. That's why you're there. Right. But what's going to make you a great player? What's going to separate you from everybody is being a student of the game. Well, I refused to become a student of the game. So they refused to keep me around. So that's what it boils down to. So on top of me not doing that. So it wasn't until I got older that I realized, no, that's your fault. Yeah. You know, that ain't got nothing to do with you. Coach Wanstead told me years ago that coaches don't cut players, players cut themselves. And there's so much truth to that. So because I chose not to grow when I got to the NFL, they chose not to keep me around. And I couldn't take it back then because I was emotionally attached to the results after I had bust my behind all those years to get there. Then you get cut. Right. But I got cut because of something I did, not because of what somebody else did. And I think that's the whole thing. It's hard to self-reflect on what you did. Even like when a man is complaining and moaning about child support. Wait a minute, didn't you create it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I think. That's what time as men we forget. It's our seed that fertilizes the egg. We are just much as involved in this as she is involved in this. But as men, for some reason, we don't see it that way. And society just sees it as the woman. She got pregnant. She didn't just get pregnant. It ain't something that just happened overnight. You know what I'm saying? She didn't wake up and she was pregnant. Yeah. There's a reason. But we don't see things that way because we take so long. It's not to grow up. It has nothing to do with growing up. I mean, because again, age don't make you a man, but it has nothing to do with growing up. I think it's just growing and looking at things differently more than anything else. Because every year that things change, we see things differently. But then you decide to grow with those changes. That's what it boils down to. As you get older, like I said, I was talking to you guys earlier. I mean, I got friends that are 50 years old, still chasing, still out there trying to chase as many women as they can. I'm like, you're 50. At what point do you realize this isn't for me? Yeah. It ain't working for me. So again, man, change is inevitable. But growth is a choice. No doubt about it.
So. And as we get towards the end of this book, we talked a lot about self-love, and you said I challenge you guys to, practice self-love. I want to ask, what's the first step into learning how to love yourself?
It's a good question, man. It's a good question, T. I know for me, it was thinking about it. Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Mm-hmm. It all starts in the mind. I talk about it in the book. Before I became a believer, before I became a Christian in May of 96, I would feel a certain way. I would act off of those feelings and think about the consequences later. So I think when you start talking about being precious and seeing yourself as precious, when I became a believer, I would think about everything that could happen, consequences that could happen behind it. Then I would act. Mm-hmm. Then I would feel a whole lot better. So I think that's what it is. It's first of all, understanding and believing that I am worthy, that I am precious. I'm worthy of God's love. I'm worthy of my wife's love. I'm worthy of loving myself. I think that's the first thing, is to think and believe that you can be loved, and then act on it. Start treating yourself as precious. Mm-hmm. Start doing the things in the right way. Start taking care of your body. And I think it's in the it's a line in there where I say in the book, I treat my body as if I'm going to live forever, mm-hmm. but I treat my soul as if I'm going to die tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that line.
And so that's the whole thing. You got to start thinking about the person inside and start looking at the person outside. Once you start feeling better inside, that's when you start taking care of the outside of it. But you got to believe and think, and you got to renew your mind and believe. And again, this is just my opinion. Right. It's just my opinion. But once you start believing that, hey, I am precious, that it's not just a tool. I just don't want to use it anywhere I can. I want to actually think about stuff before I do it. Before I lay down and sleep with this girl, before I do this, before I go out and rob this bank, whatever the situation may be, I want to think, do I want to spend time in jail? Do I want to be with this girl for the next 18 years? Do I want to be attached to her? Once you start thinking, I think that's where it all begins. It all begins in the mind. It begins in the renewing of the mind. And I think once you do that, you understand and you start loving yourself. And you wake up in the morning, man, I love me. Mm-hmm. I love me some me. I tell people all the time, I love me some me. I may not be cute. Don't bother me. If I love my ugly self, that's what it boils down. And that's what for me, that's what it is. I mean, I love the person that I am. I think once you start loving and growing with the person you are, that's when you can become successful at doing things you want to. And the other thing is too, man, find out your purpose. Mm-hmm. What's your purpose in life? My purpose is coaching. And it doesn't matter if I'm a head coach or I'm an assistant coach. I don't worry about my platform. I don't worry about my title. This is my purpose. Coaching is what I do, helping young men grow and understanding who they are and becoming a better man, better husband, better father, that's my purpose.
Absolutely.
So that's what I believe in. So I think it's more about, it begins in the mind, and it's in everything. It's in everything you do. And guys always ask me when I talk about that being my mission statement, I believe it relates to football. Once you get guys understanding who they are as a football player, what they can do and what they can't do, where their abilities are, where their strong points are, and they start, that's when you build a great football team. Yeah, that's when you build a great football team. I think as a young man, if you're going through life and you're thinking those things, that's when you build a great young man and a great person. But you have to put your first self first. And again, not in a selfish way. I'm not saying it in the self, but you have to understand that you're the most important thing, and you have to take care of who you are, man. Your soul, you got to take care of it. That's what it boils down to.
Absolutely. If you can give a lesson to young men in 2 or 3 sentences from this book, what would be the main thing that you pull out of it?
Probably just come to love yourself. Just learn to love yourself, man. And come to know your purpose. It's probably the most important thing. Come to know your purpose. What drives you? What are you driven by? Not what other people think you're driven by.
Absolutely.
Not because you're a good football player and everybody thinks this and this and this and this. Coach Tyler and I, when he spoke to a high school or junior high not too long ago, one of the young men, I asked him, I said, what do you say? Coach, I like to play football. My dad was a football player, played in the NFL, so on forth. I said, do you love it? And he sat there, he was like, I don't know, Coach. I said, don't play.
Right.
I said, this isn't something you can like.
No doubt.
So when it comes to your purpose isn't something you can like. Purpose is something you have to believe in and thinking that is extremely important. So if I was to sum it up in 3 words, learn your purpose. Learn your purpose.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Got anything else, guys? I think with my last, because our whole platform is about the student-athlete experience, educating student-athletes about what it takes to, play at the next level.
Absolutely.
If it's Division I, Division II, whatever it may be. What is a message that you would give to young student-athletes that are hoping to play for maybe Robert Morris someday?
It's what we always talk about, man. I give them my mission statement, but probably more important, what's best for you? And again, you're going to talk to your parents, you're going to have a conversation with your parents, but what you shouldn't do, don't get caught up in putting that hat on game day, because for the next 4 or 5 years, you got to be there. And I heard Walter Payton say something, man, and Coach Tyler sent me this video, and it's a video of Walter Payton back in 1986. And Walter Payton talks about when he was coming out, he had about 60 offers from different schools. And the reason he chose the school, and I guess at the time people would pull him this way, pull him that way. And what he said, his mother said to him, he said, son, if you go somewhere where people are purchasing you, once you no longer can function for them, they find something else to purchase.
No doubt.
So go somewhere that loves you.
Absolutely.
Not for what you can do for them. And somewhere that believes in you and not what they believe you can do for them. Everybody's selling pipe dreams. There's every coach, everywhere you go, recruiting is outstanding.
Yeah.
I heard an old story of this guy tells a story about this guy dies and he goes to heaven. And he gets there and God's like, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I tell you what, this is what we're going to do. I don't know if I'm going to let you in heaven or go to hell. So I'm going to send you to hell for 3 days, and then you can come back to heaven and let me know what you think. So he goes down to hell, and he's down there, and all his boys are there, strippers, having parties everywhere. They having a blast. I mean, they just having a good time down in hell. Everything's going on, having a good time. So then my man goes back to heaven. He hangs out in heaven. It's just serene. Everybody just enjoying their life. And he goes to God. He's like, hey, man, God, I love you, but they want to go back to hell. All my boys down there, everything's happening. So he gets back down to hell, and it's what we think it is. Fire and brimstone, it's on fire, everything else. He goes to the devil. He's like, what's going on? Where's the stripper? He said, I was recruiting you. And that's what it boils down to. Don't get caught up in the glitz and glamour of what's going on. Find out who's going to make you grow, who's going to help you grow, who's going to make sure you graduate from college. It's not about going to school and playing football. That's the only thing that bothers me about this transfer portal that people aren't looking at.
That's crazy.
Bottom line is, the transfer portal is not about I'm leaving here to go get an education over here.
Yeah.
I'm leaving here to go get an education over here. They're not even looking at, do I have the grades to get to where I want to go? Do I have the progress towards degree to get to the other school? All they're looking at is, I have the ability, I want to go there. And that's all the other coaches, they're pulling them in that way. So that's the only thing that bothers me about transfer portal. You got to make sure it's the right place for you. You got to make sure you're going to get your degree. And I said this to guys, and some coaches probably agree or disagree. I'm going to get everything I can out of you.
Absolutely.
As a coach, we're going to get everything we can out of you on this football field. You need to get everything you can out of us with an education.
Now, what about the young kids that's maybe 4th through 7th grade that hopes to be recruited someday? What's the message for those guys?
Just love the game right now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about playing in this 7-on-7 play. Love the glory of the game for what it is right now, because when you get to our level, this becomes a job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This becomes a business. This becomes important because this is how we feed our families. And I tell people this all the time, well, you're not giving him a shot because you're like, I don't care if I don't like you. I don't care if we get along.
Right.
What it boils down to, if you're the best player, you're going to be on the field. Any player that says the coach don't like me, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, because that coach's livelihood depends on you being the best player you can be. So you're going to be on the field regardless if he likes you or not. They have nothing to do with it. So as a young person that isn't in high school yet, just enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Parents, let them enjoy the game, because once they get to this level, you can still enjoy it. You gotta love it at this level, though. This ain't you can't just enjoy it. You can't show up when you want to show up at this level. This is when you love it. You gotta be there. You gotta work out. You gotta go to class. These are things you have to do. I tell guys all the time, you will be kicked out of Robert Morris as a bad student long before it's a bad football player. So this is a business. Your part of the business is to go to class, take care of your business, do what you're supposed to do. So make sure you're on top of that. So just enjoy the game as you're young, because you get older, it becomes more important and it becomes more of a business as you get older.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you.
Yes,
I think
thank
the
you, man. I
conversation was
appreciate it, man.
unbelievable, man.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go do some self-reflection.
I think they to learn some lessons.
I'm
But
going to do some self-reflection.
it was great, man. So if you get a chance, make sure you go ahead and get the book, The Coach's Guide to Becoming a Better Man, Husband, and Father. Coach Clark, where'd you get the nickname Tiger?
Nickname Tiger is not anything. It's no, first of all, there's no wild escapades or nothing like that. It's strictly innocent. My mom said when I was 6 months old, when people would go to pick me up, I'd fight like a little tiger. And so she just started calling me Tiger. So no, we're good.
You ain't got no, they come from you. They come from you.
No, it was long before the you.
Hey, man, we appreciate
Hey,
you.
no, thank you, T. I appreciate
absolutely.
TB, no doubt. DB,
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
you, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for giving me this opportunity, man. Because like I tell people all the time, and I heard someone say this, it matters that I sell books. It doesn't matter that I sell books, because I want to make sure we get books out there. But more important is that I get the message out there.
Absolutely.
The message is far more important. I want to make sure the message gets out there, man. I'm just trying to leave my mark, man. I'm just trying to be a good steward of God and do what I'm supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Man, look, my son too. I'm gonna go home and talk to him. Hey, look, listen, man. You valuable.
Exactly. Tell him right now.
Today's his birthday too.
I guarantee you telling your daughter that right now.
I've been to
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Status Podcast.
That's good.
Gotta go for the goal, yeah, we gotta win. All heart and the soul, yeah, we putting in the trenches with the bros, gotta play to win. One more play, then we in the ship. One more game, we gon' get a win. Fight through pain, I can never quit. One more play, then we in the ship. One more play, then we in the ship. Gotta go for the goal, yeah, we gotta win. All heart and the soul, yeah, we putting in the trenches with the bros, gotta play to win. One more play, then we in the ship. One more game, we gon' get a win. Fight through pain, I can never quit. One more play, then we in the ship. One more play, then we in the shit. From the goal line.
Status Podcast.